Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a new edition of what the FOL Corporation calls Between the Headlines. This is not Dennis Jar. I am Jerome Gaiman. I am not Dennis Jar, and I am not as proficient and eloquent as Mr. Jar, but I'm sitting in for Mr. Jar, and I'm going to do my best. I have with me three gentlemen that are well versed in current event in Liberia, and they're going to be giving their analysis and their own personal views on issues trending in Liberia. As you can see below are the topics today. And with me are three powerful, well-enlightened young men who are going to introduce themselves. And gentlemen, if you belong to a political party, you belong to a sorority, we give you 1 minute of if you got your cheat sheet with you to plug in your political party, your candidate, or your fraternity. It's so big. So, gentlemen, welcome. Let me start with Mr. Alil Kamara. Alil Kamara, you are no stranger to FOL, but tell us a little bit about yourself, the party you represent, or the party you support. And before you get started, there's a disclaimer here. Whatever we say here is not an official statement and standing of FOL. Whatever I say here, I am not an official member and spokesperson of the CDC. I support the CDC. I think everybody is going to make that disclaimer. We are here with our opinion and facts. Mr. Kamara, tell us a little bit about yourself and who you support and why you are here.
Well, I am Aliu Kamara. Everybody know. I mean, I am a household name on social media. Just playing. Um, just a everyday guy. Have nothing, know nothing. Just here to learn. I have pledged loyalty to Joseph Yuma Boakai for president, given his experience and his enormous contribution to Liberia. And that's where I stand. Whatever I say here does not represent the circle of Joseph Yuma not the top of Joseph Yuma himself. He did not send me here. He did not ask me to come here. Everything I'm doing here, I do it out of my own volition. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Ambula Mane, welcome, sir.
Yeah, this is Ambula Mame, a usual voice, familiar voice on FOL, most times on the Friday edition. I support the candidacy of Councillor Tiawon Gongolo. I oppose the re-election of President Weah. I think he did not live up to his promises. He did not fulfill his side of the agreement with the Liberian people, and he doesn't deserve a second term, so that the incoming leader can know that when you promise and you don't fulfill, there's a consequence. So I support Councillor Gonglo and looking forward to having the fruitful discussion.
Thank you very much. A very good friend of mine, a brother. We go all the way back. I have a beautiful picture. My wife has that picture. We frame it. It is Victor Namwe, myself, and Natano Bear when we were at the UPP convention a few years ago in Philadelphia. Victor, welcome. And what do you say?
Thank you, Jerome. It's good to be here. Thank you, my fellow panelists. Yeah, my name is J. Victor Namwe. I live in Jersey. I am a former chair of UPP PACO USA. That's the United People's Party to Progressive Action Committee PACO. As you all know, UPP is not fielding a candidate this year. I am leaning Cummings. I am leaning CPP. Again, I'm glad to be here.
Thank you very much. And one of the things that Mr. Victor Namwe and I have in common is Bacchus Matthews. We are followers of the late Bacchus Matthews. And one of the things that he instilled in us, again, when he spoke at Morehouse College a few years ago, he let us know in Atlanta that the most dangerous person in politics is a guy who is neutral. He says when a man tells you he's neutral, he stands no ground. You have to be very wary of him. This is why when I'm hosting these shows, I like people to stand where they are. When you tell me you are neutral, then I have issue. In addition, let me welcome my brother, another astute son of Liberia, Mr. Gonglo, the brother of the present presidential candidate, Tiawon Gonglo. Kelabo, will you welcome and introduce yourself? Which party you from and who you supporting in here?
I'm sorry, I need to stop a call that is coming here.
Okay.
Dennis doesn't know I'm on a call. He's calling me to join his show.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So thank you. I'm glad to be here. I've been here with Alio the last time, and I know the brother Victor and my own brother Ambolai. My name is Kalabo Gonglo. Member of the Liberian People's Party, and of course I'm Councillor Tiawan Say Gonglo brother, who I believe fundamentally he's prepared to change the history of Liberia. So I'm supporting.
Great. Ladies and gentlemen, let's do us a favor. Everybody, please share this show within your network because we want all the folks that follow Councilor Gonglo to be on here and hear that he has great representation here. Also, if you are from the ANC block, please share this show. We want ANC to be fully represented here. I think somebody having some, Mommy, I think you're having some feedback there. If you are from the Joseph Boakai block, we expect that the UP folks will be fully represented here. We want you to participate, get involved. This is national discourse. This is about the future of our country. Within 6 months, we are going to have either president will retain his position, or we may have President Gonglo or President President Gonglo, President Cummings, or President Joseph Boakai. So it is incumbent upon us to meet, discuss these issues thoroughly, respectfully, honestly, and enlighteningly, so that our folks can understand where we differ when it comes to policies and procedure. Now we have some trending issues in Liberia that we're going to be discussing. If you look at our line there, we have serious issues going on in Liberia that needs to be discussed, and we need analysis from those who support the different camps, either from an ideological standpoint or from pure and analytical standpoint, where we all can sit back, relax, and double down or enlighten or bring something new to the table. Now, we all know that this VP thing has taken on a new dimension in Liberia. Why has it taken Mr. Boakai so long to pick a vice president after 5 years of being in the opposition? We also have a letter that was just a press release, a statement from the U.S. Embassy that talks about Liberia in a way that, in my own belief, and in the belief of the whole Liberia, this is something that we all should look back on and say collectively, what does this say about us when we are called basically the entire nation and its history? We are being referred to as a criminal syndicate. What does that say about us as a people? What does that say about the past? What does that say about our present? And what does it say about our future? I'm going to start with the youngest man on here, hopefully. Amulan, take a stab at what is going on in Liberia. The ambassador made a visit to the leeward counties of Liberia, and according to him, he was very dismayed and disappointed. What do you make of his statement? If you have it with you, have you read it, and have you analyzed his statement?
There is absolutely nothing breaking in what the ambassador released or what the U.S. government released, because the ambassador doesn't speak on or in his own behalf. He speaks on behalf of the U.S. government. What they released on Liberia today is nothing new, nothing strange. The only thing that is strange is to see people outraged or angry for things they know but have not been angry about, to the extent to which they are angry today. That's strange. Before going to the specifics in the ambassador's statement, let me just bring you to something. There is a bill currently before the legislature, before the House of Representatives. It was passed by the Senate. Senator Darius Dillon, Senator Nyobli Kanga Lawrence, and Jonathan Boakai Segwe fought tooth and nail publicly to stop and block that bill from passage. It was passed. It's the pension bill for legislators, basically saying lawmakers who will be rejected by their people will continue to receive benefit, I think 50% of their benefit for the rest of their life. That will cost additional hundreds of millions of dollars on the already small budget we have. That legislation was in the Senate. Senator Dillon, Boakai, and Nyobli fought against it passed. Nobody sounded angry that the legislature is taking a decision that will put a burden on the next generation. It is before the House of Representatives. Nobody is talking. When it passes the House of Representatives, the president signs it into law. It creates over hundreds of million burden on the next generation for people who went to the legislature and were rejected. It's a pension that they are not contributing to. Nobody is talking. But if the ambassador speaks today and mentions that pension bill, everybody will be outraged. They say the pension bill is bad. But because he has not spoken, it is good. Or because it is an opposition candidate who spoke, Darius Dillon, so it is good. No other person will add their voice to ensure we prevent this embarrassment. So I lay this as a premise of how we are as a people. Selfish. When it is not me, it should not be you, because it is Dillon who raised the issue, so we cannot support him. We care less until things go out of proportion before we take action. To the ambassador's statement, even though the things he raised are not strange, but the manner and form in which he raised those issues, they are undiplomatic, but the US government intentionally to be undiplomatic with exposing corruption in Liberia, because the nature of corruption in Liberia is systemic, and diplomatic approach will not solve it. For example, we talk about hospitals not receiving budgetary allotments. These are things that would have been prevented. If you go on the Senate recalling, months after months, Senator Dillon and other senators have been calling for budget performance report. Budget performance report can help you prevent what happened, what the ambassador is alarming. It basically says, before you pass the next budget, you must present a report of how you spend the previous budget. If the executive were presenting report on how they spent the previous budget, we would have known that these hospitals were not receiving money. But nobody concerned about budget performance report. Once the budget gets in the legislature, everybody agree, pass it. Civil society actors, conscious people, universities, professors who should be giving opinion on a budget that will determine the life of the people for the next 1 year. Everybody's silent. In summary, the ambassador's statement is not new. These are things that would have been prevented by some of the actions that some lawmakers have been taking, but being rejected. And it's an embarrassment to the country.
Great. Let me go to Victor Nambi here, because he and I come from the same block here. Victor Nambi, there's something when I was a young man, 1978, Bassa Matthew spoke about taxation without representation. This is 2023. And the ambassador said when he traveled outside of Monrovia, he could see obviously that Liberia ends where Monrovia ends. He says he been to the leeward counties of the country, and in the leeward countries of the countries of the country, They have people paying the meager taxes, laboring to pay the meager taxes. And all the taxes, all the money comes back to Monrovia. He said it is a one-way street. So negligent that he thinks it is in contempt. This is how he sees it. Now you take that back to 1978, 79, when Michael Matthews says that taxation without representation is a crime. Here we are, almost 50 years after he made that speech, the ambassador is saying the same thing that was happening. It is still happening. People are paying the meager taxes, they're hot taxes. It's coming to Monroe, but there's nothing going back. Victor.
Thank you, Jerome. And let me welcome my brother, also Kilibo, and our lone sister here, my Scorpion sister. Benny, welcome. Yeah, Jerome, that says a lot about our decentralization efforts. Obviously, Monrovia is where it's at, and this is why everybody is coming to Monrovia. If you're not in Monrovia, you're practically not alive in Liberia. But I agree with my young brother here, his introductory comments, that what the ambassador said is not really breaking news. I mean, this is something we all know about. I think it is gaining so much attention not only because of where it is coming from. In Liberia, we believe whatever we do in Liberia is a Liberian thing. Nobody else understands what is going on. Nobody can read between the lines. But yes, quite frankly, the drum beat has been sounding over the past couple of years about the weird government's inability to stamp out this thievery that we're calling corruption, because this is what really it is. We can go back to Ambassador Banks' delivery at the bicentennial celebration back in February, when she sounded a warning about the crippling level of corruption in government's lack of support to the integrity institutions, kind of intentionally stifling those institutions, refusing to support them so that they will be able to do their work. Then we had the ambassador's famous "What would J.J. Roberts say today?" because of the claim by the Lord Mayor of the city of Monrovia that he could not clean the city because he wasn't getting support from international partners. The ambassador then indicated the amount of support that government is giving to the health sector, $79 million. Now, we all know of the scandals that have been blowing up here and there lately, Kakata, Margibi, and all over the place, where the health money goes. Education, lack of support to the education sector. And then lately, he's telling us that the legislators are getting, $65 million in salary. Back again in March, Mr. Cummings highlighted the budgetary allocation for just the five top government functionaries in the presence of the president of Liberia, the vice president, the speaker, the deputy speaker. The five of them together were bringing almost $15.7 million, whereas the four major hospitals were getting less than $10 million, or around $10 million. The higher institutional learning training institutions were getting around $9 million. These things have been highlighted over and again, but we've seen this government's either inability or refusal or both to address these shortcomings. So this really is not breaking news. It's just perhaps where the statement is coming from. So that's my take.
Great. Let me go to the sister here. Welcome. I was told that you were a little busy. That's why it was. But this is G Talk. When you're talking about the Monrovia talk, you want to hear anything going on in Liberia from the Monrovia standpoint, this is where you need to be. G Talk, plug your show a little bit and say something about yourself, and then let's go into the show.
Well, it's good to be here. I had to go back to work, but fortunately for me, I didn't need to go all the way in. So, and I wouldn't miss this opportunity to be here with my best friend Gaiman tonight. It's good to see you, James, and everybody here. So it's good to be here. Just to like Gaiman said, I do Liberian news in Kolo Kolo, I call it. It's called G Stock because it's G's. We don't authenticate any story we hear and we share it. That's what we do. So I just want to say here, just a little bit about the ambassador statement or the publication. For me, there is nothing new, and there's not anything that he has said that we all have not heard about. I mean, listening to James give a summary of it, there's a lot of things that has been happening that we've heard about. So there's been really nothing new that we don't know. But one of the things that stood out for me in the statement was the last paragraph. And it reads, as for me, should the U.S. Congress ask how the elite in Monrovia are treating destitute citizens in the Leeward contest, my honest response would have to be, those citizens are treated with a neglect that borders on contempt. Is this the best that Liberia can do? If you, as a Liberian, don't read anything in the entire publication, if those were the only lines that stands out to you, then you should not be concerned with the fact that it came from the American ambassador. You should also be concerned with the fact that many Liberians have been trending on these various issues. And now you have it summed up from all walks of life. It was the same ambassador a few months ago who said that people living in the diaspora were contributory factors to causing chaos for what Liberia is today, or to carry news or saying whatever way we interpreted his statement. It is this same ambassador that's coming back to us and said, listen, your country continues to tread in the wrong direction. So everybody should be concerned. And it shouldn't be that it's because he is saying it that we don't want to hear it. There's, like I said, at first I was appalled, but then when you take a step back and you listen and you really read what he is saying, there's nothing we haven't heard. Some of you, some people watching us, and some people on the platform have been to Liberia on many occasions, and they've seen the situations that people are in. So there's nothing new. Will the government do something? No. Nothing will happen. It's just going to go from one side of the face to the next side of the face. So it's nothing new. It's what's happening in our country. What can we do about it? I think we can continue to talk about it, and maybe something will jerk somebody's memory, or is going to jerk them into action, maybe. But it's sad that we have to hear an outside source, and this is on the international platform that he is giving. I almost said that, and just to end, Gaiman, this is like a closing statement for him as he turns over. It's almost like saying he made an effort to go and do a visit to be able to back whatever he had to say to whoever he's turning over. And this is not good, really.
Mr. Kamara.
Yes, sir.
This is where we are. For those of us who were born outside of Monrovia in the interior, President Tubman used to be our hero because he came from outside of Monrovia. And he says the greatest obstacle to his leadership when he came into leadership in Liberia was that Monrovia group that are so tightly knit that nothing else comes from outside, and he had to come in with a whip. He had to kill a few people to allow them in. So here we are, we got young people, new folks coming in and running this country. You come from the Boakai camp, and Boakai has a platform. But up to now, those of us that came from the back of Mafia camp, we're talking about the unitary system. That the unitary system have never worked for Liberia. It have made the president the king, the absolute power. Nobody in the international community, nobody in the opposition is talking about either a federal system or quasi-federal system. But they are saying, like Bronsky told me, the unitary system works only you don't have the right person. He said, I'm the right person. When I get there, I will change everything. So here we are. What is it that your camp, Joseph Boakai, is bringing to the table to change the trajectory of the unitary system that is now killing us?
What amazes me is you did not ask that bundle question to the other panelists, but when it came to Boakai, now you want to make things complicated for me. But I understand. Victor, I'm kind of confused a little bit. To be a follower of Bacchus Matthews and not support Gonglo or Boakai, but you support the comments, I'm a little confused. But that's okay also. Gonglo, I know you're here for Aliyu specifically, so I already know. But listen, a few months ago, Joseph Yuma Boakai was on the Costa show. He was also on the Timas Jidate show outlining these things. I don't want to sound like a broken record, like the other panelists have said. Liberians know these things. I left Liberia on the 1st of April, these few days. And I literally reported on some of the destitution that the ambassador cleverly chronicled in his note. These are not things that we should be reminded of. These are things that we should stand against on our own. Look, Liberians have been crying that there are no drugs at JFK. They call it just for killing. They had a nickname, a whole thing for it. Liberians have been complaining for the past 5 years that Redemption Hospital, in fact, does not take any emergency patients. For 5 years, we've been saying these things. So just like most of the panelists have said, it is no news to us, and people are making too much of it. And for the first time, George, we are actually listening. Since the opposition communists have made a speech about this, Gonglo, in fact, I watched one of Gonglo operations in my country when he pointed these things out in much better details than the American ambassador had done. But because it was coming from them, you're coming from a Mana man or a Kisi man or somebody else, so it didn't make sense unless it came from a white man. And I'm glad that he kind of re-echoed the concerns that we've been having, the things that we've been putting forth. But at the same time, I admonish our people to respect us. I know they say a man is not respected in his own home, but at least give us at least 20% of respect. And to ignore us and everybody sits up calmly until when the American ambassador speaks, then everybody wants to stand up. We've been talking this thing from 2019. From 2019, we've been talking these things. We talked about a few $1 million that were collected from the airport from this coronavirus thing. And that money disappeared in thin air. We've been talking about those things. Nobody said anything. The health minister is enjoying the confidence of the president, regardless of all of these things that we put out there. You understand what I'm saying? But my problem, though, my major problem happens to be with the way he generalized the House of Legislature. There are good people in the House of Legislature. There are people over there who have been trying to stand up. But I want our Liberian people to know that you cannot blanketly accuse everybody in the legislature of being corrupt. The legislature, the way it functions by majority rule. It doesn't matter how good you are. If the majority says yes, you are nobody. That's how it works, unless you want to change the constitution. Now, what do we bring to the table? Look, we bring vast wealth of experience to the table. We have what it takes by all measure to bring the kind of development that Liberia needs. Joseph Yuma Boakai knows agriculture. So the problem of agriculture, he can nip that, you know where. Joseph Yuma knows diplomacy. The question of diplomacy, you rest assured that Joseph Boakai also nipped that, you know where. The question of corporate experience, he had 2 corporate jobs in Liberia, LPMC and LPRC. When in terms of presidential experience, you're fully aware. You are fully aware that he has been there for 12 years. If anybody understands Liberia's problem at this point in time, it's Joseph Boakai. By the way, The Tubman thing you threw in there, I am not a fan. These are the people who set the foundation that the young Liberians or the newer generations are emulating today. Liberia were never out of Monrovia. Liberians were never punished for doing the wrong things. There were no ramification of people's actions. As a result of that, other people followed suit. Mr. Gilman, the Liberia under Tubman had no ministry but the executive mansion and the Capitol building. Okay? All ministries in Liberia were being rented from the very Tubmans and the Tubals and the Coleman and all of these people until Ellie and the Doe Ellie came before things begin to change. So I don't want to hear nothing about Tubman.
Great. Mr. Gonglo, no, let me go to Mr. Gonglo. You were out of here. We read what the ambassador said when he says it is a pity that 73 of the legislative people from the lower house, or I shouldn't say lower house because there's no such thing as lower and upper houses in Liberia, from the House of Representatives and the 30 senators. He said among both of those folks, if they were so much into loving the country, I like the way he said it is. These people, this administration, so will be pro-poor. And you can say what you may, the legislative branch, the judicial branch, the executive branch, they're all part of this government. And if they could only take $500,000 of that 70 million they were making and send it to each county every year appropriately, we shouldn't be worrying about all of these things we are talking about. But instead, he used the word, they are feathering their own nests. They care less about everybody else. I mean, someone said that they find this to be derogatory. But how derogatory it is when our senators, our government, everybody runs to the U.S. Embassy for redress for everything. How do you expect the U.S. Embassy to respect you? The last time Yobli Kanga, my own senator, and Dara Dillon, they went to the U.S. Embassy for redress. Recently, we had John Balu, the former senator, going to the U.S. Embassy, telling the U.S. Embassy to basically take the country and do what they made with it. So if you disarm yourself and empower someone to talk to you this way, who are we to now say, why is he talking to us this way? Mr. Gongo.
Okay.
Well, no, thank you for that question. Yeah, what I was saying. You know, like Ambalai said, those of us who have followed what has happened in the Liberian government for the past probably 20 years, I would say beginning from 2006 under the UP government, there's nothing new here. The only thing that is new, Ambassador McCarthy was not in Liberia when Boakai served as VP for 12 years. That's the only thing that is new. All of the issues are outlined. The lack of budget performance under the UP government, there was no budget performance for the 12 years. Not, because under the constitution,
we're not discussing UP, we're discussing the thing.
Mr. Kamara, your man is protected. Get him
under our laws, the central bank supposed to give the balance of our money to the legislature. They're supposed to report it, the Banking and Finance Committee. That has never been reported, not even under the government before the UP, and now under CDC. So what CDC is doing here is just copying from the UP. That's all they're doing here. They never submitted budget performance. CDC is following suit. The UP institutionalized legislative bravery, and they're doing the same thing. So there's nothing. So the thing that is new, Ambassador McCarthy was not in Liberia under Boakai Salif administration. So he's just saying this. But he had been here, he would have said, okay, for the past 20 years, we've done nothing. Or the past 18 years, we've done nothing. We need to change. So that's my first comment from the get-go. So look at a pension bill. Jeremiah Kuhn supported it, voted for it. And that's the man that Boakai goes to. If you watch Prince Johnson today, Prince Johnson basically announced that Boakai is taking Jeremiah. He is now acting as Boakai. When I look back on history, it's like, okay, we have a parable in Nimba that says, if lizard cannot eat rice, while the lizard is always found around the rice barn. We say someone is not corrupt, but your trusted ally you always choose are the most corrupt in the legislature. Thomas Fala and Jeremiah Kuhn, their activities on the Ways and Means Committee undermine the social service delivery of Liberia for, I would say, for the past 15 years. The records are there. Thomas Fala has a university that you look at the building, you don't think an individual that has no work for government can build that building if you just work for your salary. Kuhn has a hospital in Nimba, has businesses. Where did he get rich? Government. And what is the impact of that? Well, so we are talking on something that is nothing new here. We know the source and the problem. The thing we need to do is to change the direction. The way we change the direction is to bring a radical progressive like Councillor Gonglo to be our commander-in-chief. And we can change the direction. We can make Liberia better. And I'm sure Ambassador McCarthy will be very happy.
Thank you. Mame, you were the first, and you've been sitting supinely waiting. You heard what Mr. Gonglo said. Obviously, you served briefly in the Unity Party government on the Elling. He is saying, when you guys were in power, Mr. Ambassador McCarthy wasn't there. So he is talking from basically in a 4-year span. But he is saying that they have been talking about these things. And Mr. Kamara said, Boakai knows administration, Boakai knows agriculture, Boakai knows this. But Boakai was once Minister of Agriculture, and today we are still dying from hunger. He was at LPMC, nothing happened. But they see, oh, Boakai now, from 19 who have been repackaged. He is now coming back now as this brand new man who have seen, this is man who is saying,
are you asking a question?
Listen, everything I have done in the past 80 years, because he's 90, everything I have done in the past 80 years, he said, forget it. It is beyond me, but I'm the future. So is Mr. Kamara right? I mean, is Mr. Gonglo right that the past administration should burden most of the blame here?
You see, I don't disagree with Mr. Gonglo significantly, and Mr. Kamara. But one thing I want to point out is it is illogical. It is a form of intellectual laziness to just name positions that people serve in and conclude that because they serve in those positions mean they underperform. I study agricultural development. That's where I worked. Currently, I work to design and implement agricultural development program for the USAID in developing countries. That's what I do for a living. I've done extensive research. Not to praise Boakai. Check LPNC record under Joseph Boakai and after Joseph Boakai. At the time, agricultural development and the value chain process, the supply chain process was designated to government for control. The LPMC was effective in controlling the value chain and movement of goods and agricultural commodities on behalf of farmers and putting money in their pockets. Very successful. Check the record. On average, LPMC under Joseph Boakai and other administrations after Joseph Boakai were very effective. When there were SARS sellings and the market began booming, private sector actors tried to enter. That's when government decided to change the model from government control value chain production to private sector value chain and government serving as regulator. So it's not just because Joseph Boakai served as LPMC, so it means he's incompetent, he's not fit. Go check his record to LPRC before you can judge and conclude on him. I'm saying this because I support a candidate who served under President Sirleaf. Councillor Gonglo served as Labor Minister. He served as Solicitor General. Does it disqualify him to be a president? What were his records?
Thank you.
As Solicitor General? What were his records as Labor Minister? When Councillor Gonglo was serving as Solicitor General, I was an active member of the CDC. I went to jail with Moluba Molu when George Bush came to Liberia. When Gonglo came to the prison company and said, I can't prosecute the children. They did nothing wrong. You put them outside or you will prosecute them. It was from that day to today that I talking in my heart. We were in prison. Molu and myself were seated in prison. Gonglo came to the prison and said, you put the children outside. I will not prosecute them. They did nothing wrong. To protest when US president come here is not a crime. So if you can put them outside, you will prosecute them. He transformed prosecution across the country. So because he worked in early government, he's corrupt or he's incompetent to serve, go to labor ministry and see his record. So when we pointing to people's service in government, we should not just be blanket. And if we want to attach them with failure, we should be intellectually strong enough to do research on their performance and attach it to them rather than just generalize. That's the first point I want to make. But I agree that it is doing from 2005 to 2017 that bribery in the legislature was institutionalized. President Sirleaf, under the circumstances she found herself, an unpopular leader. I'm not justifying it. I agree it was wrong. An unpopular leader leading a dominant opposition legislature, desperate for resources. The only option she felt, and that was wrong, was to bribe them. She could not convince them. I know some instances where President Sirleaf said, I did not give it to them, they take it. So, yes, under the President Sirleaf administration 2005 to 2011, that was when bribery was institutionalized in the legislature. She bribed them on almost everything. Public institutions, corporations were encouraged to bribe the legislature to be able to pass their budgets. So yes, they are right. But one thing I want us to continue to do is when you want to blame somebody for a collective failure, try to identify what role they played into that failure. Or what role, to what extent they contributed to changing the system. Those are the conversations we should be having.
Great. Thank you. Mr. Nangbe.
Yep.
Real quick. Here we are. And I want to piggyback on what Mr. Gonglo said, because I have said this, I am a supporter of President Weah. I'm a seditian by way of, I'm a transplant from the UPP to the CDC.
You
so
don't say.
I have to say this. And I've said this, and I said it in private, and I'm saying it publicly.
Now we see your problem because there's no medication for your transplant. None.
Okay, great. Now here we are. I, as someone who was familiar with Gonglo's work, I've said this in private, and I'm saying it publicly. There is nobody in Liberia that has the pedigree when it comes to straightforwardness, when it comes to honesty. Nobody that I have seen. And I've said this in private, and I want to say it here in public because I told several folks, including maybe I might have intimated that to Mame or to Mr. Gonglo himself here, because my younger brother did work for Gonglo. And up to today's date, there is nobody, and he's a UP, my brother is a diehard UPP, Unitary Party personnel. I'm saying this to say, when you're talking about we should pinpoint an individual and assign or blame to that person, let's go to Joseph Boakai. According to the international community, according to all the audits that we have seen, they're saying that it was Honor Joseph Boakai as president of the Senate. Honor Joseph Boakai Rule 66 of the 68 concession agreement was signed. And the 666 or the 68 concession agreement were
Mr.
bogus.
Gamer, don't make fool of yourself.
Sir, I'm not coming to you. There's a rule here. Mr. Namwe,
Yes.
the vice president is basically the president of the Senate under whose chairmanship 66 bogus agreement was signed. And now he's coming back now to say the 66 bogus agreement are signed, forget it. That one it was water under the bridge. But this time around, the next 66 will be all for Liberia. Charmy.
Well, I was going to speak to Mr. Kamara's expression of shock that as a UPP partisan that I'm not supporting Ambassador Boakai, but I think you just made a case for me. Ambassador Boakai has had ample opportunity. I think he himself has indicated how much he squandered that opportunity to have done something to help the country. Even here in the States, more than half of the Democrats do not want Biden to run. I'm not being ageist here, but there is a certain amount of vigor that is required for the presidency. I think Ambassador Boakai may not have that vigor required. When he had the opportunity and he could have done something, he did not. I don't believe no matter how much opportunity is given to him now, he's going to make any difference. I don't believe that. Hence, I'm not going to be supporting his candidacy. I like Councillor Gonglo. He is from the progressive camp, but I think his late entry into the game increased the headwinds against his candidacy, and I think that will make his candidacy a very heavy lift. And because of that, I think Cummings has a better chance, and that's why I said to you, I'm leaning Cummings. For what Liberia is faced with now, you don't only need someone who has been in government for a very long time. That will help. But you need someone who understands, who understands the sophistication required to interact both with the local populace and the international body. I don't see anyone who is better suited right now in the race than Alice Cummings. I don't. With all due respect to Councillor Gonglo and Ambassador Boakai, I don't think so. We would need a lot of help, both locally, but especially internationally. And I think Cummings' exposure, both on the local and international scene, gives him a very, very better shot of helping Liberia out of where we are. You all have said it. My brother Gongo has said it. Ambassador Boakai was in the Senate. Was president of the Senate as vice president. You just said the number of bogus concession agreements that were signed under the Johnson government. I think 68 of those. 66 of those were declared null and void. He was the president of the Senate. What is going to be his argument? That he wasn't present or that he couldn't do anything about it? I don't understand that.
Great.
So, yeah. So that argument for me, I think is a waste of time.
Great.
And I'll leave it there. Joseph
Boakai has a great alibi. He can tell her that he was sleeping. G-Talk. G-Talk. G-Talk.
Yes.
Your father was somebody that we admired in Grand Bassa County as a poor man lawyer to some degree, a sophisticated poor man lawyer. He had fought against most of the stuff that the ambassador is talking about. He saw abject poverty. He saw the strangulation of growth in the private sector among the poor. They have been singing this song forever. What would it take to break this culture of staff? I mean, we talk about stifling the rest of the country at the behest of the Monrovia few. And he said it. There's an elite group of folks in this Monrovia. And when we say elite, it's not Congo versus country. Because when the country boys come from up interior, they come to Monrovia, they become their own elites, and they are even worse than those that met there. What would it take for us to transform this mindset that when you come to Monrovia, you have a right? Don't go back to River G, don't go back to River Seth. You are now one of the elites, and you step on everybody with your $1 million salary.
I think it's sad for Liberia and Liberians. We have the attitude of the habit of saying that we're concerned, we put country first. But in all honesty, we really don't. So one of the things I wanted to go back to, Mr. Kamara talked about the ambassador generalizing. If you have 70 senators or representatives, and you have only one person doing good, how does that one count to 70? If you have 30 senators or whatever the number is, and you have only Dylan or somebody else that's talking, how is that going to be significant for him to mention it? That means the people who are not talking, they outweigh that one person who is speaking. So you have to see who is it. Cummings, Boakai, Gonglo, Madela Cooper, I think she's still running, I'm not sure. We're hearing about Moneva. Who is it that's going to come forth now and really put country first? And to go back to segue to what Nangwe said, Ambassador Boakai was the president of the Senate. So we'll say, okay, he couldn't vote and all of those things happened. What is his excuse now to Liberians? How can Liberians be assured that he will do different from all of the things that have happened? Come on now, even in this trajectory period where we're looking towards people voting and casting their ballots for Boakai, some of the things that have happened, he has been very silent on it. You talk about rape issue, he's not speaking. None of the political leaders, as a matter of fact. It's only recently that we even heard Councillor Gonglo. Yes, and that my Councillor Gonglo, one of those that I know very well because my father favored Councillor Gonglo. It was like he was a son to my dad. So I know of him and I know him very well. But this is the thing. It's like all of these ills that are in our society, no one is speaking out. So what is it going to take for Liberia's, where we're heading, to be turned around 360 degrees? I don't know. I really don't know. I don't know what's going to encourage me. Like you said, the country person comes to town and they see, oh, the money plenty, and then they become an elite. And then they forget from whence they have come. So that what's going to change the dynamics for us in Liberia? I really don't know what miracle that's going to happen. Because Congo people were there was a complaint. Now we have country people there, there's another complaint. So who's coming next? It has to take a Liberian who will really say self is less and people is more to be able to change what's going on in our country now. I mean, there's so many things going on. There's killings, there's unsolved miseries, there's corruption, and you name it, it's there. Did it stop? No. In 1980, my dad went to jail, almost got killed. My sister was raped. So many things that have happened. Some of those things are still happening. What is better from 1980 compared to what it is now in our country, Liberia? When you hear that the ambassador has spoken, you don't even hear a response from the Minister of Information, because whatever he's saying does not align with what they want to hear in the government. So no one has given an official response. How is this a country? Who's leading us? Doesn't have to be something that someone has to say that's going to favor President Weah all the time. As a matter of diplomacy, you would have responded. No one has done anything. You're hearing now, all we're hearing is Dylan responded. Now we hear Swakogo responded today, Gonglo responded, Cummings responded. No one from the government of Liberia has received the statement. Should they not? Should they not say something? Who's really leading Liberia? And where is Liberia heading?
Thank you.
You know, John, if I may chime in real quickly.
Real quick, I'm coming to you.
Yes.
I think you heard the president is in Grand Bassa at a retreat. They received.
You really don't want to go there because the video is out. You don't want to go there.
The administration is in Grand Bassa County doing the people's work, and the president said it. Everything these people spoil, I am fixing it. He's fixing. Now go ahead,
Really?
Mr. Victor Mangwe. Go ahead.
Is the president really still in Grand Bassa, Jerome?
Thank him. Ask him.
Listen, everything you're spoiled, president is fixing it. Mr. Nambe, go ahead. You want to chime in real
Well,
quick?
yeah, and I'm sorry, Glendy mentioned her sister, and I'm sorry about that. Very unfortunate. But and again, this may shock Mr. Kamara coming from me, and as a UPP partisan, I don't believe we have any more country Congo divide in Liberia. I said this the other night on some other show. I think we have a privileged group of people versus the less privileged. We are all country until or Congo until we become privileged, and then it becomes us versus them. And we can look around us. Most of the people right now in government were the people who were agitating yesterday. Some of them were agitating in 1979, 1980, 1990. They are in government now, doing those very things that they were castigating years ago. So I honestly don't believe there is anymore any country Congo divide, as much as a group of people come into privilege and they become a class unto themselves. You were talking about, the situation in Bassa, the retreat. I mean, I understand this statement is reverberating, is sending shockwaves through this government. I understand they were off to Bassa yesterday for 3 days. They're back in town. They are back in Monrovia. Today is the second day. Should have been there today and tomorrow. That should say that for me. That speaks volumes. I think this particular press statement of this ambassador, as much as we all agree that he's not really bringing any news here, but I think coming from him, also knowing that he's on his way back to Washington, and obviously he's going to be making his report. I think he's also laying the ground for his successor.
Yes.
So I think this government is really, I think is shaking up. So I'm not surprised. Maybe you would tell us, but I understand the retreat was cut short and everybody's back in Monrovia. There was not even a meeting this morning, as I understand it.
Well, Mr. Victor Namwe, that's why I say those of you who from the opposition that peddle and dwell in gossip, that is not true, because I was in touch with Michael Gilman and those who are on the ground, and I was able to see some of the actions, the speeches, the photo sections, and all of that. But anyway, had that as it may be.
Did you see the video?
Mr. Gonglo, Mr. Gonglo, you have been on point, just like Mame is doing. What we all agree that the problem in Liberia is our unitary system, where the presidency is so powerful that everybody wants to be president. What is it that your candidate is proposing to break up that monopoly so we can have some, because here where you have federal system, you have revenue sharing. Whatever is produced out of Grand Jita County get X amount of share that remains for local government. Whatever happens in Bapulu, whatever is taken out of Bapulu, X amount is shared there. And the federal government has some responsibility, but local government also have their own responsibility. But if 100% of all the resources from Bapulu is going to Monrovia and very little coming back, that system has been in place since 1822. It has not worked. What are you doing or proposing to make sure that finally we break the back of this monopoly so we can see some light at the end of the tunnel?
You asking me?
Yes.
Okay. So the first thing is the correction there is, you said the president said, I'm fixing everything that you people spoil.
That's correct.
See, Mr. Gayman, you still long into this thing and should be abreast. There is a decentralization law that addresses most of the issues you're talking about. Decentralization policy that addresses most of the issues you're talking about. Revenue sharing. Because we were finding it difficult to easily move into full federal system, in most of the concessions, in all the concessions, in fact, that the government signed before this government, there is a revenue sharing provision that mandates certain portion of those resources to go back to the county. That's not what President Weah is fixing. So if you listen to Prince Johnson saying you owe our county, you can't pay, and for that reason I can't support you, it's because the government violating the agreement that calls for portion of the resources to go back to NIMA. So he's not fixing what people spoil. He's spoiling what people fix. There were county development fund before President Weah. Every budget year, county receive portion of the budget for county development activities. Since 2018, ask the counties, they cannot receive their county development funds. He's not fixing what people spoil. He's spoiling what people fix.
Great.
There were social, yeah, so I'm coming.
Yeah,
I will come to Gonglo's proposal. There were social development funds to these counties before President Weah. The counties are not receiving it. Prince Johnson is loud about it because he feels independent and as a strong man. Other counties legislators are not speaking. That is the reason why the ambassador spoke and said, funds are not going to this county, and because there is silence, it suggests that there is a conspiracy. It's written in the ambassador statement. People are not complaining. People who should be complaining are not complaining because there's a conspiracy. So there are laws, there are procedures, county development fund law, social development fund law, decentralization policy on how resources should be divided. It was through the decentralization policy that they created the county service centers. But yet here telling you today that county service centers do not even have printers. The only printer that were there spoiled. So John Weah is not fixing what people spoil. He's spoiling what people fix. What Gonglo said. Gonglo said, I don't want to be a president in the definition of a president. I want to be Liberia's project manager. It is a connotative definition and a summary of the kind of president he wants to be, the kind of leader he wants to be. He doesn't want to be the all-powerful leader. He wants to be a project manager. It tells you he's not interested in power and the theme of the presidency. He's interested in the deliverables of outcomes. Go and read the agenda on decentralization and how we empower local governments. And he's not just saying it. When he was Solicitor General, he said, county attorneys across the country cannot be prosecuting cases when they are not educated. They are not dispensing justice. He decentralized effective justice system to the various counties. Hire qualified law school graduates in the first time in our country history and deploy their county attorneys to dispense justice, to decentralize justice. Those are examples we point to that when he becomes the project manager of our country, he will decentralize services and resources. Because when he was Solicitor General, he did it.
Great. Mr. Kamara.
Yeah, can I chime in a little bit?
Yeah. Okay. One minute. 1 minute, Mr. Kamara. Mr. Gonglo. I don't want to go from Gonglo to Gonglo, but I'll give you 1 minute. Go ahead.
So, but here is just to add to. Amla did a great job. See what Gonglo brings to the table. He's trying to break down this imperial presidency. He said, let's govern by rule of law. Let's stick to the laws. What does the law say? The law is very clear. There are so many statutes on revenue sharing, like Kamala has already stated. This brother is committed to upholding the law. He's not somebody who's going to deviate from it. And more so, Gonglo is saying to you that I am going to have executive orders that we're going to even have ministers not to interfere with the operation of the court, the operation of the police. He's proposing steps that he can take these steps in the first 100 days to bring sanity to government. Okay. What you should know is that in most instances, when the president sits, those who sit around the president get to influence the president sometimes negatively. The problem in Liberia is not even so much of unitary system or lack of it. It is really the lack of patriotic people to sit in these offices. The County Development Fund Ambulance spoke about. Here is my take on it. I was in government when they instituted that in the first term of Salih government. I was opposed to that. Here was my reason. That if we don't fix the system, when we decentralize the problem. And that's exactly what happened. Go in the county, the legislature eat the money. That's all they do. That's why some legislature are very loud about it, because it's money for them. If they don't get it, it hurts them. That's money for them. So we need to decentralize this and also have managers who are ready to implement the laws. But we don't have somebody sitting on the mansion to implement the laws. We decentralize a bar system. We only spread the problem. That's all.
Thank you. Mr. Kamara, here we have 2004. I was in Liberia, and Dr. G. Franklin Holt, I think he was the acting president of AMEU at the time, called Councilor Bronsky and myself and said, you guys need to work together for the sake of Bassa. You need to support Bronsky. And I asked him the same question. I said, Bronsky, what are you going to do about the unitary system? We have to come up with something. And he told me that the unitary system was good, just that it had bad actors. And if he became the president, he would clean it up. What I'm saying here, for some reason, nobody wants to take on this unitary system, because by doing executive order and doing policy, those are things that people can abide. But when it becomes a federal law, a constitutional amendment, where we are no longer going to appoint superintendents and mayors and chiefs, now all these people have to be elected. They have to be responsible to their own people. We need local government. Nobody wants to touch this. But they all come up with all these rules that can be broken. When you talk about executive order, after 1 year, the next guy can come and turn it over. Honestly, what can we do, or what is Joseph Boakai planning to do to help us break this thing? Because it looks like everybody has tried and has failed. This power in Monrovia, nobody can beat this thing. Ellen came in with her big promises. I will do this, I will do that. Nothing happened. President Weah came in and said, I'm going to do this.
Don't let me forget now. Which one is the question? You finish the question now?
I'm coming to you. I'm asking you now. Everybody comes in with this brilliant idea that everybody that had drowned in this water, you got 100 people, 99 have drowned. You the only one left. And you say, you know what? Even though those other folks are drowned, I'm not going to drown because I know how to swim. Something is in that water. What can we do to break this back of the powerful Monrovia?
First of all, let me say thanks to Mohammed. He's really familiar with our contemporary politics. I'm one of the guys who disturbs on this show. I interrupt a lot, but you see me today, I'm kind of calm and quiet because Mohammed is doing the dirty work. I mean, why waste my time on Gilman?
Really?
You know.
This is you being calm? Oh my God.
You don't want to see him when he's mad,
Oh, I can disrupt this show. So you know, to compare the Unitary Party, first of all, with CDC, I think anyone doing that is just, I don't know what to tell you. During the Unitary Party administration, I used to send money to people to go to Tapeta to go to hospital. And there were good facilities there for them under the Unitary Party. Now one day lights went off. Under the Unitary Party, there was arrangement for electricity to supply more than 2/3 of Liberia. Arrangement, everything made. Nimba was enjoying it, Grand Judah enjoying it, Maryland enjoying it. All you had to do was to expand on it. And you sit down here and tell me, Joe, I say, facing what other people's fault. Let me address a couple of things here. My sweetheart over there says she never heard and she's not hearing any opposition speak. I understand the passion. But if you have not been hearing the opposition speak about these issues, that means you haven't been listening.
No,
I
I
mean,
studied the opposition. I say I haven't heard Boakai. When
but
people are
you
raped and
said,
people are killed, I haven't heard anything from Boakai.
then
Just
you,
to tell you, Deacon Boakai and I were from the same church.
She listed all those who spoke.
Mention his name.
She listed all those who spoke except
we give her. She not ask for help. She can
no, but she listed all those who she said.
Yeah, but wait now.
She listed everybody except Boakai.
that woman know that somebody that need your help.
I'm telling you. She listed everybody that spoke.
Yeah, let me continue. So she said, Boakai, she said, in fact, none of the opposition leaders. She said that. You can replay this thing. But let me say this. The whole issue about bogus agreement in the Senate and Boakai is responsible. Mr. Gaiman, you deliberately try to misinform people. I think you just distort information intentionally. Read Article 51 of the Liberian Constitution. Read Article 52 of the Liberian Constitution. You would realize that Boakai's position as president of the Senate is ceremonious. The law clearly states that Boakai has nothing to do unless there is a tie. Boakai cannot determine how individual lawmakers vote because they are representatives of their various constituencies. But I'm sure all of you know that. So let's not go into that. Now, what will Boakai do? It's very simple. You kind of outline. For the first time, you kind of made sense when you said people are grabbing on the power, so they don't want to allow the locals to elect their own leaders. That is the biggest problem. And I think for the last 6 months, this is the first time you've made any sense. That is the biggest problem. In my opinion, and I have spoken with somebody before, and we've had conversation about this before when the Pops was around. In my opinion, I don't even think we should have a national police commissioner or director or inspector. I think every county must have their own police inspector that reports directly to the justice minister. If you have one police commissioner or inspector sitting in Monrovia and there are no roads to go to Riverside County, how does he know what's going on in Riverside? There's no radio to communicate from Riverside to Monrovia. So what Boakai is going to bring here is he's going to not only decentralize. Let me tell you something, Mr. Gaiman. Liberia has some of the best policies you can find in entire Africa on paper. Liberia has some of the best laws on paper. First thing Boakai will engage in is firstly to implement the good laws that are on the book. First and foremost. You know, back in the days when we were growing up, even town chiefs were elected by the people of their villages or their chiefdoms. Today, town chief on payroll on central government budget. It was not happening when I was growing up in Timor Grand Bassa County. You understand what I'm saying? So what we need, what Joseph Boakai will be bringing to the table is, first of all, he's going to implement. That is our greatest problem. Implement. If you can just implement what you have right now. My brother talked about all the other things, including social, this, that, county development fund. All of those are part of it.
Implement what?
Implement the policies that are on the book.
What are the policies? What
the policies? But the men name everything you want to go. I don't want to see the whole thing. One
man is protected. You got to gain change.
Yeah, the policies are on the book. One, first of all, money that comes from the counties, when the counties collect taxes, a certain percentage go back to that county. They determine their own developmental agendas. It's on the book. It should not come to Monrovia and then somebody takes it and make it campaign money, and then go back to the various counties with 300 delegates and then begin to spend money in the county as if to say the money belongs to him, when the money actually belongs to those counties.
Great.
That he used it for campaign and stuff. So first thing Joseph Boakai would do, and the most important thing Joseph Boakai would do, is to implement the law. If you implement government policies that are already on book, ranging from LRA to the Ministry of Finance, National Police, Immigration, I can tell you for sure, Liberia will be a place that everybody will want to go. And after that, then we'll start discussing other things.
Mr. Nangwe,
Yeah,
1 minute. Let me lay the premise here because you can tell that Mr. Aliu have no clue what Joseph Boakai is trying to do. He would have said in our policy manual or
It's not written there.
or our
You want me
webpage,
to lie to you?
you will see we can do this with it. But he said he want to pull a yeke. When they ask Yeke Koluba, how many laws have you passed? He said, why should I pass a law? There's so many laws on the board. Let's just implement those laws.
Doesn't that make sense?
So he tried to. Now listen to the Nangbe, I think you and I came from the same school of thought. Back on Matthew, people used to say you are part of anything you wanted in the Tolba government, you could have had it. Then he says, but there is something in political science, in leadership that called conscious. He says, I am a conscientious objector. Mr. Boakai, if you are the president of the Senate and they got 68 concession agreement and 66 is bad.
He did not draft the concession. You're not a signatory to the concession.
Excuse me, you are part of the government. You can say, I'm a conscientious objector. Madam President, I'm your vice president, but I disagree with this. If it
happened many times.
If it costs me my job, fire me, but this is wrong for our people. That's why Baka Mafi called conscientious objector. He didn't do that, Mr. Nangwe.
No, I mean, I am really agreeing with you, Jerome.
I know.
Yeah, I'm sure you know. The vice president actually can disagree with the president. I mean, we've seen it over the recent case in point is Mark Pence and Donald Trump. Donald Trump wanted Mark Pence to do otherwise. And he said, no, the law doesn't allow me to do that. And so the vice president, as president of the Senate, and if he's claiming that his signature was not on any of these agreements, that's even grievier then. That's even much.
That's
much
the law. Let me get a cup of water.
Yeah, that's much even. That is dereliction of duty. He was being paid as president of the Senate, vice president, and president of the Senate, to do exactly that, to make sure that the Senate did its job. And what did the Senate do under his presidency? They gave us 88 agreements. 66 of those turned out to be, bogus. So, I heard you saying, the unitary, government system. I agree with you. Devolution of power from the imperial presidency, as my brother just said, is the ideal, and it's a problem that we have had to deal with. I know lately we've been talking about decentralizing the government, all of that. Yes. But other presidents have done a better job under this system than this current president is doing. That is the problem. This president came in and he decided he's going to set up his own southeastern cabal. I'm from the southeast as the president. But let's be honest, guys. Where in our lifetime have we seen a government that is so dominated by one region and one of the smallest regions in the country? Again, I am from the southeast. Don't get me wrong. Weird. You start from the mansion to the legislature, even the security, the director of police. Everyone is from the southeast. Are you telling me we are the smartest Liberians in the whole country from the southeast? Are you telling me? So, yes, the solution here is to elect our local government officials. I don't think the president should be appointing down to chiefs and all in the villages and all of that. Until we can do that, we will continue to suffer what we're suffering now. The president calls a shot. And unfortunately, because people in Liberia come into government instead of coming to serve, we're coming into government to enrich ourselves. And the president has, even though the legislature controls the purse, but the president has that authority to divvy up the money. As long as he's able to do that and pass whatever envelopes he's passing, he will dominate all branches of government, including the legislature, even though they were elected. I understand on paper, the opposition has the largest number of legislators in the legislature. And yet, this president is ruling as if to say he has the majority in the legislature and he can just do whatever he wants.
Great. Ladies and gentlemen, you are welcome to our new special call between the headlines in Liberia. This is not one of the regular shows. This is where the bright and the brightest come to discuss issues. Now let's go to this endorsement. Joseph Boakai has been endorsed by Prince Johnson. Ladies and gentlemen, this one, we have to actually dig deeper. Prince Johnson, I won't go into any further digging before you think that we are biased. But a few years ago, Prince Johnson endorsed CDC. No, actually endorsed Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. And we in the CDC and the opposition, we scorned him that he was paid for play and all of that. Then he turned around after Ellen Johnson Sirleaf and endorsed us, the CDC, and we enjoyed it. And they said everything they could say, it meant nothing to us. We enjoyed it. Prince Johnson has turned around and now has endorsed Joseph Yuma Boakai. He said Joseph Boakai is the future of the country. And people think it's the most comical thing that ever happened in Liberia. So here we are. Let me go to G Talk here. G Talk. Prince Johnson said, first of all, when he was sanctioned by the State Department, he said the United States has no credibility. The United States is accusing him falsely for paying to play. And I think Mr. Comey was the first that came out and said, all those that were sanctioned by the State Department should immediately be fired, resign, and sent to court without giving them their due courtesy of law. Prince Johnson is now saying today, what the State Department said about him is wrong. But what the State Department said about the weird government, about some killings going on, it is correct. And he endorsed Joseph Boakai. And Joseph Boakai, who used to say, if you are sanctioned, you should be fired immediately. In fact, those people who are associating with people who are sanctioned themselves should be sanctioned. And here we are, Joseph Boakai is now being endorsed by a sanctioned person. What says you about the changes that we are all talking about that we want to see? Is this the change here?
Mr. Gilman, you are so interesting. You're such a Republican. A propagandist. That's exactly what you are. It's like you ask the question and you know what the answer is going to be. So you're going to lay a long premise to try to deviate the respondent from what you want them to say. Why was it not a problem when Prince Johnson endorsed WIA? What's the difference now? So Prince Johnson was in the war. People know that he killed people. He endorsed WIA. What's the difference now from him being sanctioned? Was it not more serious for WIA to not have accepted him from being endorsed by Prince Johnson? Which government is he working right now? Who has he been serving for the last 5 years? Is it not the WIA government? Oh, suddenly he has endorsed Joseph Boakai. So now we are now seeing who he is. That he was a killer and that he has been sanctioned. Oh, but he said that WIA was competent to be president. And after 5 years, we're not seeing. So we want to have a problem now because he has endorsed someone different? If I didn't question it then, and the questions I had were not answered and it was okay for him to endorse WIA, let me say here publicly, I'm not a Joseph Boakai fan, but let me say publicly, if it wasn't wrong for him to endorse WIA, it's not wrong for him to endorse Boakai. That's how I see it.
Great. Mr. Kamara, let me come to you here. Let me quote Prince Johnson. He says, Joseph Boakai is on time bomb. Joseph Boakai is so ungrateful that he wanted the 11 lepers. Ungrateful 11 lepers. He wanted the ungrateful 11 lepers. He walking around with battery in his back. He toting battery all over this place. And because it was George Weah generosity that how he living today, he collapsed. He almost died, and then young man took him and took him to America and put battery in his hand. And he toting around with battery. He's on a time he could die anytime. Mr. Aliu Kamara,
Yeah.
said Joseph Boakai could die anytime. Joseph Boakai taught him battery, and the whole country is on fire. We are scared that Joseph Boakai can die anytime. Is it true?
It is true that anybody can die anytime.
Thank you.
Amos Sawyer did not have what they refer to now as battery, and Joseph Boakai was older than Amos Sawyer. Amos Sawyer is dead. There are people right now in Monrovia, in Liberia, in the United States who are dying and did not even live to see 25. So is it true that Joseph Boakai can die anytime? Yes. Aliu Kamara, can talk to you on the show today and die before the end of the day. That is nature. So if anyone is thinking that someone has the way of knowing who died before the other, then thank God for you. You're very powerful. But what I would tell you is that Joseph Boakai is said to be the next president of this country. You know, it's so unfortunate that I have to respond sometimes to my brother Gwangolo, because his brother is actually my uncle. I like to call him my uncle because I have a lot of respect for him. For the day me and that man show hands, I've always had respect for that man. I think I know his brother better than even he does. I was there 2002 when Charles beat his brother mercilessly, and me and he were at the same hospital, at Cooper Hospital, in 2002. I don't remember the exact month, but I believe it was around the rainy season, pretty much close to June, when that stuff happened. I know Mr. Gwangolo, I know all of the things he has passed through fighting for Liberians' liberation. At this point in time, Mr. Gwangolo, on the show today, you have to realize, I try my hardest, and Mame have come here and saved you, so I will not go after Gwangolo tonight because you come here purposely to go for Boakai. But I'll get. I know you.
Talking about Prince Johnson and Boakai, or are we talking about?
No, we're coming there. We're coming there. Prince Johnson and Boakai. Prince Johnson. The reason why I'm going around to issues that I think I'm even more significant than that is because everybody gets to have the right to support who they want to support. When Prince Johnson, I remember 2005 when we were at the party headquarters. This Gilman man wasn't there. I'm talking about CDC party headquarters. When Prince Johnson entered that yard, you see CDC and go, wow. Even Gu, Councilor Gu today, was in the yard that day when Prince Johnson came there. Okay? He was driving some kind of Isuzu Jeep. That's what he came there with. Everybody was so happy. People went helter-skelter because Prince Johnson was supporting CDC. And you can't tell me about Prince Johnson did that, why he's supporting Boakai? I'm answering that question.
Okay. Mr. Gwangolo, here we are, we have, in the United States today, you saw the poll. 67 to 70% of Democrats of the United States, the people, American people, said Joe Biden, even though he's doing a great job, he should not rerun because his age is a factor. I know in Liberia, when you talk about age, people say, you've been disrespectful. Everybody knows Joseph Boakai himself doesn't know when he was born. Some people say he's 100, some people say he's 90. And based on that, some of us, as much as I would love Joseph Boakai, we are actually concerned that at this age, in this advanced age, plus carrying battery, hard thing, and all that stuff.
You'd be surprised that Joseph Boakai is probably healthier.
I'm not talking to you. I'm not talking to you. We are afraid that when a man comes to America, he can't go through the X-ray machine before he collapses and all that. They got to pass it. So tell me, what do we do about? Can we put an age limit on here and say, you know what, after 75, you can't run for president?
Discrimination.
Listen, why don't we say you can't drink until you turn 21? That's discrimination too. But there are some times that discrimination comes. Mr. Gwangolo, what do you think about the American comparison? Because we compare everything to America. Americans are saying, listen, with all due respect, the job, according to Victor, what Victor was saying, it carried, look, Mr. Gwangolo been to every corners of the country, walking miles and doing it. It requires some energy. You have to be vibrant. You got to be that age is involved. I don't care how you look at it. You have to be vibrant. You got to be healthy to cover an undeveloped country like we have.
Well, here's first, before I respond to your concern about age, let me just say this. I think Victor made similar comment earlier on. You see, the job of the vice president, there's a constitutional provision, like Mr. Kamara said, Article 51 and 52 clearly state what the vice president can do. But what the Constitution doesn't say is that the vice president is still a Liberian, still has a right to disagree publicly, to even make a public press statement. Like, for example, the legislature, when he served in the legislature, and when the former Auditor General John Molu wrote the Senate and asked the Senate that he wanted to start an audit of the legislature, they threatened John Molu with contempt power. And Molu did not conduct, they didn't allow Molu to conduct that audit. So, and we didn't hear the VP talk about that. So, for example, for 12 years, his office was never audited. Okay, so, but the Constitution does not say he can't make statement, he can disagree and say, hey, guys, if you receive tax dollars, you ought to account for it. The Constitution does not say you can't say that. I mean, he has a perfect right to say that, okay? So I just wanted to put that out before I respond to that. On the question of age, Alio, we can't even say that because currently in Liberia, the guys who actually have the ultimate power that can even remove the president from power or impeach, I mean, interpret the law in any way, the Supreme Court. There's an age limit, 70 years old. You turn 70, you have to leave the Supreme Court bench. Okay? Yes, they are not elected. They are not elected officers in the government, but they play a critical and powerful role in government. And the Constitution put an age limit on that. You know, there was an attempt to have I think a referendum in 2011 to increase the age limit of the Supreme Court justices to, I think, 75. That was flatly defeated by the voter, that he turned 70, he should leave the bench. Okay? And I'm sure if you put this in the provision in the Constitution to put age limit on the presidency, I'm sure it will pass. I'm certain on that. The reason why I think age is a critical element is that in other developed countries, we may argue otherwise, but in Liberia is chronically underdeveloped. You cannot even travel more than 200 miles on a straight paved road. So to be a president of a nation and you're going to be receiving messages, information from 3, 4, or 5 layers, it means the reality you're going to be observing are going to be the realities of people who give you the information. You're going to be more or less a remote president. You're not going to be like a vibrant Councillor Gongo who has gone to more than 300 towns and villages, sleeping in the hamlets and villages with the people, saying, hey, I want to see the condition of my people. So when I go in the executive measure, I know what to do. He's not going to be like that. And I think age at this moment is a critical element. That's why even the VP pick of Boakai is critical, because that person is potentially a president on day one, much more than a VP pick for WIA or for Gongo or for Cummins. I agree anybody can die anytime, but the probability of dying is more so higher when you are approaching 80 years, because biologically you are approaching the end of life. If you look at the age histogram, you see that those who the upper limit, even the United States, if you do it at the bottom here, younger age, you find more people. You're going way up, it narrow up. Okay, so that's how it is. And I can tell you that it's a critical element, and age actually is a critical element in the coming election. We can debate it.
Mr. Gaiman, I think it is kind of for me to be a health practitioner and working in a healthcare field and hear people say this is so disingenuous to anybody, because a 1 minute old baby can die and a 90-year-old person can still be alive. So I think when we come on here, no, I think when you're saying that, the person who is closer to 80-year-old there's more proximity to death than someone who is younger, that is so unfair.
We want to spare Gongo, but he want for Gongo to go.
Let me finish.
Listen, Mr. Gongo, 1 minute, let her finish.
Let me finish. It is so wrong to do that. And if you're coming here, you're talking science, then you need to have facts to back it and not hearsay and not say this is what you think is happening. Because the life expectancy of anyone can be different. Age may not have anything to do with that. So we cannot continue to equate this as a ground to always say, but VB Boakai is and this is what happened. Someone also talked about he's not energetic. Well, we have the footballer. What happened? So he's not energetic. We have the footballer. What happened? We have to be careful when we start hating or we start talking ageism here. It's wrong. That's a form of discrimination, and we should not do that, regardless of what his age is, whether he has energy or not. If the Constitution supports his run, then we must support that, because the Liberian Constitution does not have any limit on his age. So for me to sit here and hear that, I'm not a Boakai fan. I think it's unfair to constantly talk about his age.
Thank you, Mr. Gongo. Real quick, then I will introduce. I will introduce our new man.
Firstly, let me correct my sister here. I admitted and I acknowledge that he has a constitutional right to run even at the age of 90. I did acknowledge that. I said also that if we were to put age in a referendum to be put in the Constitution, I believe it will pass. I also said age. I'm a statistician by training. I know you're a healthcare person, but I have studied demography. The probability of dying as you age, you go, is higher. It's just a fact. It's statistically sound. Okay, it's backed by research. It's backed by.
Please share the research for us.
Okay.
Let's protect our book.
Go to the US Bureau of Census.
Let's not trivialize.
Go ahead, Gongo, finish up.
Let's go to the. I will go to the link and put the graph there so you can see it. That the population is okay. Between those who are 50 years and lower, you see the population this much. As you go older, the population narrow. It's because people, as you go higher, more people are dying.
Life expectancy in Liberia are around 50. Almost 80. Then you say, let's get to the real issue.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Between the Lines here. We have our new guest here, Mr. Alva.
It's not for me. It's written. It's empirical.
Yeah, but let him to other host the show.
Mr. Alva Tukba, thank you for taking all your time to join us here. The topics today, as you can see, we sent them to you. We are in the middle of age and the ability to serve. We see in Liberia that our country is challenged, roads, connectivity, and travel, and everything else. And there is no way that anybody can make the case that a 90-year-old man is more vibrant than a 55-year-old man or a 66-year-old man when it comes to running the country. Mr. Alpha, what says thee on the particular issue?
Let me just clear the air a little bit on the topic I met with regards to the life expectancy and stuff like that, right?
Sure.
So they got something called actuarial tables. And those are tables for insurance reason, for social security, for different kind of benefits that they use to assess life based on the demographic, based on life and death information, right? So at an early age, from like 0 to like 5, 6, your chances of dying way higher than somebody who like 9, 10, all the way. I'll send you the Social Security chart, Jerome. If you want to share, you can share it.
Yes.
So for somebody on that lower end, yes, there's a high likelihood they would die faster than the younger person. It's just statistical. No, it's not necessarily discrimination. Yes, when you talk about age, you discriminate to some extent, but that's just the reality of life. And you got limitations. Look, right now, most of the people on this, except for Ambula, if they were admitted, if they sit down in a low seat for them to get up, it's not like they used to get up before. They got to press on a seat to be able to get up. So certain
Yeah,
functions,
and I'm pressing on no seat.
I saw you the other day to that function you're pressing your seat. So, but the answer your
I think that's individual basis. It's not everybody.
Oh, come on, get a bench here.
Individual basis.
I'm a tennis player. That's the only cardio sport I know. I'm a tennis player. I just came from playing. I played tennis.
And then more than 60 years old.
Listen, guys, listen.
compare your speed. I play tennis too. When you talk about lawn tennis, yeah, I play too. I used to be a ball to Duco. I played my whole life. But what I'm saying is the way you used to run around the court, short shots, the way you go and pick it, or you can't do it right now.
I do it.
There you go.
Go
There
ahead.
you go.
It's a gonglo.
Okay, so let's get to the issue now. You're going to disprove the issue or not?
It's a gonglo.
Let me deal with Vice President Boakai. Let me deal with Vice President
It's a
Boakai.
gonglo. You are talking about the anomaly here. If you are, as a person, if you put 100 people in your age group playing tennis, it will not happen. So don't even go there.
Thank you.
Mr. Tuba.
I must be very clear. I must give Gonglo that because I'm pretty fit. And his older brother, Tiwan, they work out in that Marshall area on a regular basis. And Tiwan is like the coach for the workout group. And he put them through drills. Many of the younger people can't even do it. So maybe they got some good family genes, like I got in my family. So Mr. Gonglo, and I'm disputing you. But to talk about Joseph Boakai, I don't have this example of relevance in terms of the age. We got to be honest with ourselves. Vice President Boakai has health issues, no question. Vice President Boakai, he's an elderly man. His decision making, just in terms of split-second decision, or in terms of him looking at, let's say, 4 different proposal issues, key issues, he's not doing that. He has to depend on people. So to a large extent, it will be about his team. Can they actually do the work for him in a positive, honest way in the best interest of the country? That's the question most people should be asking because, I mean, it's very clear at an event. If you look at Boakai picture from 2017 to now, or you look at any one of us here picture from 2017 to now, 6 years later, it's not the same. For some people, like Ambula, he probably got stronger. For most of us, we probably got weaker. So we got to admit it. There's age is a factor. You want where Liberia is today, you want somebody with energy, somebody with competence, somebody with network, somebody who has managerial control. If we can't get those things, it will be difficult for whoever to lead. We see the failure right now with President Weah. He's young, but he doesn't have the ability to lead. He doesn't have the competence. He doesn't have the knowledge, the experience, the exposure, the network, nothing. So everything is stagnant in the country. And we just have to be real with it.
Great.
You're confusing me. I'm very confused.
Ladies and gentlemen, in some states, I'm in Florida, I'm in an older state where we have a lot of older folks. There are restrictions on age. Even there are times they will take your driver's license. There are certain times you cannot drive at that age. It is not discrimination. It is based on fact. Your reflexes are diminished. Okay. You can't function as you were when you were 40, 50, 60. When you turn 80, they take your license away from you because you cannot. That's just the fact. They look at different results. We'll talk about catastrophic accidents. We're talking about incident reports. It is more higher in that category. Now let's go to the VPP here. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Aliu, this is where you want to be. Let's talk about Joseph Boakai VP. Who is it that Joseph Boakai is looking for in a VP? And why isn't it Joseph Boakai is allowing himself to be VP to either Gonglo or to Mr. Cummings?
Sometimes I think you can purposefully do this thing to get under my skin. Joseph Boakai go as VP to come in Congo. Here's the thing. What amazes me sometimes is you got CDC being ran out of Buchanan. They don't even have a place in Buchanan. They make own mother county. And I see this year sit here and worry about who Joseph Boakai is going to pick. Look, let me tell you this. Whoever Joseph Boakai picks, the Unity Party will support. Joseph Boakai supporters like me would support. I don't care. If it is Yombri, we will support. If it is Kuhn, we will support. I would have been glad one day to see Joseph Boakai and Tawan Gongola always advocated for that on the same team. Unfortunately, from all indication and the way his brother pronounces, it's clear that that's not going to happen. But let me just say this: whether Joseph Boakai get battery, whether Joseph Boakai 99 years old, whether Joseph Boakai picks the next pick to be his VP, every polling in the country indicates that Joseph Boakai is the first among opposition right now in Liberia. And the more people criticize Joseph Boakai, the more they say negative things about Joe Boakai, the more his popularity grows. And we're making use of that thing. You've been talking about this thing from what? From 2017, 2018, 19, 20, 22, 23. You're still talking it. And the more you're talking, the more your population grows. And we like that. You keep on.
Ava, election was held in 2017. New administration came in 2018. Joseph Boakai had been in opposition or had been in government since 1971. Going on how many years? We talk about maybe half a century, and he's still in there. And from 2017, when he lost, that when Liberian people, when he got defeated, when the Liberian people kicked him out of office, from then to now, Boakai have not had an idea who a vice president should look like, who should be the next vice president. And they say something about, they seem to talk about age, because a new and a vibrant man who have picked his vice president by now and say, this is the person that I be, this is he or she in whom I trust. We can work together. Mr. Tuba, tell me here, what is wrong in that camp?
Maybe the options are too many, or maybe there are a lot of special interests. But I don't necessarily think that having been under government for the last 6 years or having had exposure to all these different characters lends itself to Mr. Boakai just making a hasty decision. You see the confusion in the camp. Yombli have been by his side the whole time. You probably wanted to be vice president too, but it's just not in the stars for him to be that. Yombli had hopes, but then Jeremiah Kuhn and a couple other characters came along. Again, funding is a problem, and supposedly Kuhn has some money. Then there's the Costa factor. Costa will be bringing $30 million to the table from what I've been hearing from people. So it would take some testing. I don't think he should rush his decision. I predicted that even probably he may not make a decision on Friday, even though a lot of people feel already the decision has been made, and most likely it's Kuhn. Who knows? But the last few minutes, something dramatic could happen that could develop something. So it's a risky position. He also has to reconcile with somebody like Yombli. As aggressive a personality I have seen her in the public space, I don't think she would take it laying down or take it happy not to be selected as the vice presidential candidate. So they got to do damage control there before they can bring the news out. So I personally won't rush him already. He's at an advanced age, and it takes some time to come to that decision point. So, let's get the papa his time to make a decision, but obviously there are issues.
Great. Victor, you come from the ANC camp, and we are talking about Joseph Boakai. Alexander Comey has the same right as Joseph Boakai, as Gonglo. What is holding you, the ANC folks, back from selecting your own vice president? Now that we're talking about Joseph Boakai, you have the same opportunity. Why haven't you picking your own vice president?
That's seniority.
There you go. That would be, that would be my.
Mr. Kamara, you see how they are? When they for Boakai, then he too old. But when
Yeah,
they
that's right.
say seniority is good, you see.
Yeah, but you're supposed to ask. But you're supposed to ask my man answer the same question. I don't know why you
You
didn't answer
know,
that question.
I
No,
have
but
to
for the
say
sake
though.
of coming, go
No,
ahead.
but you know that
Victor,
is the
before I go back to
answer
ask
for
it,
me.
what's
Yes.
stopping you from now selecting your own vice president?
Yeah, we're getting to it. We're getting
There's
to it.
nothing stopping us. Convention coming. We decided
Absolutely.
May 13th.
Yeah. So
Tell me who are the kind of vice president you're looking for? Since
you know,
up to May 13th.
I think Isaac might be better suited to speak on behalf of the ANC. And I'm not an ANC insider. I indicated I am from the UPP, but I'm leaning ANC, so I wouldn't really know the dynamics. But I tell you this about the vice president. You know, I think we had the same problem the last time around. It took him so long to settle on a choice. And what did he do eventually? He misfired. And the rest is history. He's not in the mansion today. He seems to have a problem, you know, dealing with contending forces, just like Ivar indicated just now. It appears he's really having difficulties reaching a compromise. Henry Costa is not going to take it lying down. Yombi Kanga is not going to take it lying down. Jeremiah Kuhn is now in the mix, so there is a lot. And you know, does he have the capacity to assuage all these strong figures and say, okay, you know, guys, I mean, this is what broke up the CPP, you know? Again, the inability to manage crisis. I think it's a problem. I know my wife is from Nimba, so she's gonna be partial to Jeremiah Kuhn. I can understand.
I can hear her in the background.
Yeah, she of course you can hear it.
So hold on one second.
But I think this says a lot.
Can I answer that question?
We know the VP is supposed to help the ticket. I mean, we're like 5 months out or so. I mean, when is the help going to be coming in?
What about your own?
Well, you already said it.
Mr. Tuba, go ahead.
Yes.
Come on. It's a tag team here. Go ahead.
What the question I want to ask, and this is, you know, in general, but primarily for Victor. So, do you see your wife's choice as a tribalistic choice?
You want to cross away the people?
Yeah.
Yes.
I wouldn't answer if I was you, Victor.
Isaac, come back with a question again, please.
Do you see the fact that you say your wife is from Nimba, so her choice is automatically Jeremiah Kuhn? Do you see that as tribalism and is a potential?
No, it's not tribalism. It's about the
watch it, Victor. Victor, watch it.
Okay.
My husband is from the southeastern region. Jeremiah Kuhn is from the southeastern region. Therefore, henceforth, the Nimba people have supported many leadership.
All right.
What have we gotten up? But my husband will speak for us. Jeremiah Kuhn.
After you look for it and you get it, Google.
But that is a worthy correction there. Jeremiah Kuhn is actually from the southeast.
Thank you.
He live in Nimba, but he's from the southeast.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's a breaking news. I know.
But as you know, Senator Johnson
said there should be nothing in the southeast, everything from the southeast, but he forgot to know that Jeremiah Kuhn from the southeast. Mr. Tupac, go ahead.
But again, you know we got this key word these days: identify. Jeremiah Kuhn does not identify as somebody from the southeast.
No, but Jeremiah Kuhn is not from the southeast. Actually, Jeremiah Kuhn was born and raised in Nimba, so he's a Liberian. He's from Nimba.
So what, John?
But let's get to the issue. Let's get to the issue.
George Weah was born in Nimba.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. So he's a Nimba.
We get to the issue and forget about the birth.
Yeah, let's get to the
person was born.
The issue here.
Where the person was born in the person tribe is
not issue.
Once you were born there, you're Nimba. So let's leave that one there.
Mr. Gonglo, same question to you. What taking you so long in selecting your vice president?
I think like Victor said earlier, that Councillor Gonglo made his consultation took a while to make a final determination as to whether he was going to contest. because he had other national obligations like serving as the president of the bar and serving on other committees. He didn't want to leave those responsibilities only to enter the race. He said, look, I sign on to those responsibilities. I need to earn the duty before I pick up another responsibility. And he was committed to that as a decent person. And he ended his duty as president of the bar, handed power over officially, and then say, I'm going to enter politics. Okay? But that's one. But he has set a committee, and the committee has come up with criteria, the nomination, review of credentials and vetting. It's already taking place. It's ongoing. And sooner than later, he's going to be announcing his running mate. Okay? This is his first time. He has not been in this game compared to Cummings, who ran in 2017, Boakai, who was in office 12 years and ran also 2017. They have slew of supporters. He been in government for 50 years. So he has a lot of people that he can actually tap into as compared to someone who has just been an advocate. Like Alio said, he almost got killed, and both of them are the SD Cooper Hospital on 12th Street. I know this story. So that's part of the issue. But I think fundamentally the issue is not even where Kun or whoever was born. The fundamental issue is the record of the person to take over from Weah. Because let us not forget,
evidence.
Removing Weah is not as important as the person who will replace Weah. We know Weah is a failure. Weah must go. We agree on this. There's no disagreement among many Liberians.
Listen, Mr. Kamara, can you please let me do this here? Thank you very much, Mr.
I'm not in there.
Go ahead. You keep interrupting. It passes bedtime. Go ahead.
The issue we need to look, for example, Kun has been in the legislature for more than 12 years. What is his record? What bill has he supported? On record, what we know is he was deputy to Thomas Fowler, and we know the records he said. They are audio recording, even in, I can send it to you now, you play. In Prince Johnson own words.
Inadmissible.
Jeremiah Kun is a role. Ali was there the last time we played.
Inadmissible.
So, and even there are videos to show people demonstrating at the Capitol building, say Jeremiah Kun, roll, Thomas Fowler, roll. So if you just oppose this guy record with Emmanuel record, and that the same kind of person Boakai is going to, like I said earlier, there is a Bible in Nima who say,
Goglo, 1 second. That's funny. Somebody told me say they ticket a weekend ticket too.
I think it's more than wicked. No, I think it's more than wicked. So I think the old man probably has a penchant for going for bad people. Just like Alio. Alio has a penchant for going for supporting bad people. He supported Weah. Now he's supporting the other side. So Alio just got.
But then you're going to answer too.
Listen, Mr. Kamara.
I admit to that.
Mr. Kamara. Okay, Mr. Gomlo, Gito. You see how difficult this thing is. The VP pick it turned out to be a hot potato.
No, but Isaac, I think the VP can. The VP can have made it unnecessary.
Your wife took 2 minutes of your time, so.
No, it was Gucci King in, and she said everything left with him. So that means she is going to support Cummings at the end of the day.
Nah, that's not going to happen.
G-Talk.
I want to ask Mr. Gonglo. I want to ask Mr. Gonglo.
No, 1 minute before you ask him. You see how the VPT is on hot. We beating up on Mr. Boakai here. We are beating up on Mr. Boakai. The Gonglo people say it's coming. People say coming, but then they all turn around and say Joseph Boakai is wrong.
Yeah, Boakai too old. I want to get make a pick.
I've never said that. Look, do not put words in my mouth. I've never said that. I have said very clearly.
No, I said what I want to say.
The records of those that come off from the opposition, because not everyone in the opposition is an opposition. Cool.
I take my.
We just did it down where we had as late as 3 months ago. Not everyone in the opposition is an opposition, and I stand on this. I'm fundamental on this idea that I am not going to side with anyone because the person comes and say, I'm opposed to WIA. Look, if you are a thief, I'm not going to take another thief to replace the thief.
But you have to have evidence to call someone a thief.
Well, the evidence is right there.
Where?
Can his salary build the assets he has?
You
His
know,
salary cannot.
I indicated earlier, Jerome.
They asked that.
I don't believe it is sufficient, and I agree with Mr. Gonglo. I don't believe that it is sufficient to just say, WIA needs to be removed. I think really what is important is what are we going to replace him with? What are you bringing to the table that will fill in this void that has been created, that has been existing over the past 5 years or so? And I indicated earlier, there is the question of competence, that is crucial. There is the question of exposure. There is the question of connections. Who are you able to pick up the phone and call and say, look, we need help over here. Can you line up a line of credit for me? And with all the candidates right now on the spectrum, with all due respect, I believe Ellis Cummings has the capacity. He checks all these marks hidden here.
I believe I can fly, but I can get wing.
Of course. I agree with you. So I believe, because we have seen this record played. The CDC, they were in opposition for 12 years. They came into office. It took them 6 months to give us the PA, whatever it is, PA, whatever, PD, whatever, which they are not even following. Where is
that document?
I'm sorry?
I helped to write that document.
Oh, you did. Well, thank you, my brother. This is what we have. But so now, where is the plan that we're coming with? I know, like I said, Councilor Gonglo has something on the table, but I believe his late entry into the game really militates against his chances. I think he's a good candidate. Now, of the forerunners, that's Vivi Boakai and Alexander Cummings. And I'm saying here now, I believe with what is needed to rescue this country, yeah, he's rescue one, but I don't believe he has a rescue plan to rescue us out of this.
Great. So the rescuer needs to be rescued. Ladies and gentlemen, let's talk to the next team. I think I'm going to go to Mr. Alpha. I took my here.
But what happened to Mame? Why are you jumping over Mame?
Mame is not here.
He's not here.
So we are talking about the convention here. The CPP convention is coming up. Why now? Why now? Joseph Boakai is about to pick his running mate in on Friday. Since January of this year, or since 2018, these people didn't announce when they were going to have their convention. They finally found out that maybe they may not be picked on Friday, and all of a sudden, we got convention scheduled, and at this convention now, they're going to put policies in place. They're going to put a team together to now go against President WIA, Joseph Boakai, and Gonglo. Mr. Tupa, why now? And why after the Joseph Boakai announcement?
Are you talking about the UP?
The CPP, on the CPP, are the CPP got a convention coming up? No.
Yeah, but how does a convention tie into you saying they're just starting to put a team together? How do you know that?
I really think that the date for that convention was out long before this VP pay was announced.
When was it announced? Mr. Kamara, you and I have been on here. We've been on these shows all over the place. We have never heard about CPP or COP convention.
Every time we ask them, they say we contact people waiting for Joseph Boakai. That's what they told us every time we ask them. However,
I know who been telling you that.
Mr. Tukba, Mr. Padmore told us that they were waiting for the elderly statesman to make his decision. That's
you don't think that was a tongue-in-cheek statement?
Okay. So tell me why we're happy at this convention. What should we expect at this convention?
The convention will be a formalization of the relationship in the CPP today and the establishment of Mr. Cummings as the standard bearer formally that will be presented to NEC, as well as him announcing his his running mate.
Are we going to see a contested convention where there will be actual voting for candidates, or
Hell no.
it is a coronation where commies are already being crowned and he's going to just be coronated?
I don't know about crown and coronation, right? But the CPP framework document has been out there. The new CPP framework document from day one, and the agreement between the two key people in the CPP, the Liberty Party and the ANC, established that relationship. So, I mean, for you to say otherwise is actually a formality, and presenting to the public and making sure, as required in our constitution and with NEC bylaws or the election guidelines, that we have a convention with, responsible people in the coalition in terms of those who hold the mantle of authority for different positions and everything, being part of that delegation to, vote in the candidate, white ballot or green ballot.
Mr. Kamara.
Yeah.
Those of us who were born during the Tubman era, I was born 1960, at the end of 1960, so I'm 62 years old.
I was born after Tommy died, so maybe you know that.
Okay,
start lying on this show.
So
I'm telling you,
you are very young, and from now on, you got to respect me. You got to
not very young. I'm 48 years old. I'm not very young.
The man was born in the country. The sun was up. They say that the day where it rained that many years more ago.
I'm 48 years old.
Mr. Kamara, you can even be 28. Now tell me, these people are now saying they are going to a convention, and on the convention, only one man is on the ballot. That the Tubman started. Tubman said, I may not be the man you like, but I'm the man you got.
Yeah.
Now here we are. Cummings is the only man on the ballot.
Yes.
And they said they want to vote at the convention.
Yeah, you see, that is hypocrisy about ANC that no one can really imagine sometimes. These are the guys who go with the cliche, I like to call it. You can't do the same thing over and over and expect different results. This is the man during the days of the CPP. He wanted people to have equal participation. They must go through VP, whatever. They must go through election. While they were doing it, you were buying motorbike and buying car for everybody else to vote for him. Bribe the whole country. Now, this is the same man now. After the other people have left the CPP, he grabbed the whole thing. They wrote paper here. Musa Belede, just two of them. Wrote quick paper and said, you will be the president no matter what happens. These are some of the deception. And so when Victor say here, oh, this man exposure and this and that and the other, says this guy came in like Brentford, a lot of skimmages. Everything about this guy has something, there's something corrupt always circling around this guy. We saw Martin Kula and other people calling people from the different party districts and the head of districts for the CPP at the time, giving them bribe, giving them motorcycle and telling them that we are going for Cummings. And they expected that Joe Boakai, knowing that he doesn't have a deep pocket as Cummings, knowing that they expected Joe Boakai to stay there so Cummings can buy the other people. So
I've never seen an excuse for cowardice like this. I've never seen an excuse for cowardice in this kind of narration.
But their opinion. What I'm telling you is, we were not going to sit in the CPP and expect the guy to bribe everybody around him. We're not going to happen. This is a man who, you're talking about, Ellen Johnson said he introduced bribery in the Senate. This is a man who was in a political party, a collaboration. This is a man who started buying everybody. Imagine, only in a political party. So imagine what would happen if this man became president. But become president, well, we can say like bro in the
you lost all credibility, man.
That's all right.
But I want to go back to the convention thing, though.
Yeah, go ahead, Victor.
Normally, conventions are usually the formalities. Yes, once in a while you have more than one candidate on the floor, but usually by the time you go through the primaries and all these things, by the time you get on a convention floor, is a formality of declaring who the candidate is. And so this thing about, one person being on the paper and all of that, I don't think it's anything out of the ordinary. I mean, who was the opposition candidate to Dr. Weir at his convention?
Everybody got to defend their own witchcraft. We understand that.
Oh. What is your witchcraft?
There you go. I defend my own. The man defending your own. You hear the sweet toy talking? They're doing a just formality. People go to convention have actual election.
I know it happens. It happens, but it is not a requirement that you must have more than 2 candidates to go to a convention. No, it can.
No, but what we're saying is, if you're so clear of a man, you're the perfect guy, you're Jesus. Everybody go to you. Like what people used to say. The people repenting, they're coming to him. Why can't he set an example? If he's going to have a democratic government, why can't he set the example from right within his a 20-member coalition?
Well, fine.
Nobody else in UP wants
but
to
how somebody else will go there? The people wrote in their document, they said,
no,
don't
I'm
even
talking
try
about
to
UP.
We talk about UP.
Listen, here's the deal.
You being a hypocrite, Aliu.
UP we all agree that as a vine, other people say UP that corrupt group. We not agree.
I never said that. I never said that. I never said that.
Have to be clean.
You can't be setting expectation for
Jerome,
CPP.
I'm not setting expectation.
Aliu cannot
Aliu, 1 minute. Ava will be right back. Let's play our little jingle. We'll be right back, guys.
Thank you.
Hello and welcome to Focus on Liberia. For education, information, culture, entertainment, and overall wide variety of programs, tune in to Focus on Liberia, the best in Liberian diaspora television. We are focused.
Ladies and gentlemen, Focus on Liberia. We have been discussing issues trending in Liberia, from the presidential race to vice presidential pick to the ambassador's statement to Liberia. And we are saying to you here that we are a sovereign nation. And when we got the press statement from the ambassador to Liberia, it behooves us as Liberians to dig deeper. Why is it that we have always been dealt with, talked down this way? This is something that we have to now go and dig deeper. Is it our own doing when we see our leaders, our senators, our legislators, basically living at the footsteps of the U.S. Embassy? We are not in the position to address our own issues. We do not have a solution for our problem. Everything is taken to the U.S. Embassy. So when a U.S. ambassador who is empowered by the Liberian people own inability to take their own sovereignty seriously. And then when he comes out with these kinds of statements, we find it to be derogatory and disrespectful. Some say it's undiplomatic. But do we, as Liberians, deserve to be dealt with diplomatically? We have been here a little over 2 hours. We are going to go into our closing. Mr. Ava Tukwa, thank you for coming, but you didn't speak on this particular issue. Please take 2 minutes and speak on it, and then we'll go into our closing arguments.
On which issue? The one you were just talking about?
The ambassador's comments about Liberia.
Okay, so the ambassador raised many points that we have been raising for years. The lack of transparency in this government and the refusal to produce reports. You know how many after every budget year completes, we ask for the spend report. We don't get it. We just get the next budget where they show basically the same amount that they projected for the previous year budget as the current expenditure. So for the ambassador to go to these different places and the people to tell him that they have not received funding, that's not news to some of us. That's what happens. That's why we say corruption is like murder. You are killing people. These people are entitled to these funds for them to get some medication, for them to get the salary. What if somebody who you pay for 3-4 months, the child gets sick and die because they can't take them to the hospital, they can't pay. And if we accumulate all those different instances where government negligence has caused death, our government will be like one of the most criminal and murderous government ever, because it's just prevalent. So the ambassador was right. They will set up service centers in the different counties to provide services for our people so they don't travel to Monrovia. But now the people operating the service centers, you know what they are? Like he said, middlemen. They will collect the information in the parlor until they can get less money from the people to pay their way to Morel. They'll come process the document and then take it back. What's the purpose of having these service centers that the people spend so much money to build? Like he said, the only functional service center agency is the LRA, which is important. But unfortunately, they generate local revenue and they take it to Monrovia and it doesn't come back to the counties. What is that for decentralization? That murders any purpose of decentralization. Okay? Then we look at our legislature. The 2022 budget, they went up from an average of like 44, 45 million a year to 64.4 or something million dollars. And I'm sorry, I don't have access to this to share the spreadsheet I did. But when you compare the budget, you wonder, why was that jump from 44 to 64? What were they doing with that money? And then they put 29 million into operations to do what kind of operation are they doing so differently?
Mr. Alva, while you are there, can you please touch on this egregious thing the past called retirement benefit?
No, that's just a rogue scheme. It's murderous. Some people, you work for 6 years, coming to work 2 times a week for probably 35 weeks in a whole year, and then you won't maintain that salary after 6 years when you have not done anything for the people and they kick you out?
For life.
How stupid is that? I mean, look, the fact that we just allow our legislature, as corrupt as they are, to just pass laws, we really, really need a recall law. That's what we need. If 10,000 or 15,000 or whatever number we come to, citizens decide that we don't want this particular lawmaker to lead us and they sign a petition, that person should go. Because you guys have no measure to perform by. The basic function, the 3 basic functions, lawmaking. Most lawmakers have not proffered or proposed or written up one law. If you look at it, probably maybe 2 or 3% of them. 2, representation. How do they represent the people? How many times have you seen a senator say, yes, I was able to negotiate with the budget for the road to be built in my county? They got poke barrels and they got actual functional lawmakers who make argument and cases for the people for certain development to come there. We don't see it. Then the oversight. Look at the American ambassador saying that the legislature, the silence there means that they are conniving, that they have institutionalized this corruption or depriving different ministries, agencies, departments, and commissions of the allocations in the budget. So the level of corruption is high. If the people vote, everybody if that were me, everybody in the legislature in this current government goes. Anybody from elected perspective goes. And then when you come in, those who are sitting, you assess them, whether they qualify to be in that position. As we know, many are incompetent. And that's why there's a deterioration and a lack of good governance all over the country. Look at the proliferation of drugs. Look, I put the question up about Kush, K2. What happens? The children are dying. Nobody say anything about it. The children going crazy, some of them. Nobody saying anything about it.
Mm-hmm.
It is, where is our country going? That's the future generation. I got one of my friends who said it would take 200 years for us to develop, bro. I say it would take 250 right now. Because when I compare what Mauritius has done, when I compare what Botswana is doing, when I compare what the people in Rwanda are doing in terms of government, not to even mention even Ghana that we say suffering in West Africa with us, they are way ahead. When do we get there on a $700 million budget when we can't even believe we're going to expand to $1 billion? So the lack of vision nationally, not only from only leadership, limits us to want to aspire or do anything. And that has to change. Our mindset really has to change. That's why I love the platform item of Mr. Cummings to engage the hearts and minds of Liberians, because we really need that mindset change. We really need a governance structure. We really need a strong anti-corruption posture for us to be able to build our economy up and move forward.
Thank you. Mr. Kamara, thank you for being here with us. 2 hours going. We had a great time. Your closing argument, sir.
Look, I really enjoyed my time here. I'm sorry that Mama had to leave because he was making my life easy. When he left, then I started getting a little hotter because then I was standing my own. Because I knew I had no backup, and then you brought a guy with a BA. I know he's troublesome as well. So I started to become disruptive. You know what I mean? It's part of the strategy. You see what I'm saying? So look, no, I couldn't agree more with everything he said about the legislature. I still want to remind people though, everyone in the legislature is not bad. Everyone in there, not bad. At least 20% of the folks in that legislature have been trying their hardest. What we need to do instead of passing blanket judgment is to try to get documents of their activities in the House on an individual basis. Let us see how everybody has been performing, what they've agreed with, what they have not what they have disagreed with. I call on Daros DeLon this moment. He has been one of the staunch advocates for Liberians in the Senate to come up with every document, every dossier in his possession to have a press conference. Let Liberian people understand that not everybody in the legislature is bad. Bulk of what's happening in this country today is on the executive. Listen, everything comes down to leadership. If the president will stand up to the legislature, because you see, the Constitution, they drafted the Constitution so terribly that the legislature determined their own salaries, they determine their own benefits. You got to have a president to stand up to this guy. Who's going to have the opportunity to take more and refuse to take more? So you need a president that will stand up to these guys and say, look, we know this is in the Constitution, but this is something that we have to have some kind of referendum about. We need to take this out of the Constitution because this is unfair. Our police can barely make $200, and you're making $15,000 just for working for 2 days. You need a leader for that. I don't want to come here and go against the opposition. What I can say in my closing statement, we need a leader that will stand up to these kinds of cartels, and that leader is not Judge Weir. I can tell you that very easily. Look, it was great being on here, Victor. This is my first time interacting with you. And I'm glad you were on here today. So I'll be here. I'll be here anytime you're ready for me, Mr. Gilman. We are here. But remember one thing: Joseph Yuma Boakai is the most competent, the most qualified, the most experienced in the race, and nobody can doubt that. Take that to the bank in my Akara Spirit voice. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Nangwe, your closing argument, Mr. Aliu Kamara said, we need a president that can stand up, but Joseph Boakai can't stand. Go ahead. How do you close?
I didn't say that.
Thank you very much. And thank you, Mr. Kamara, and also Isaac Landing. Of course, Mr. Gongo has left, and Mr. Membe. Thank you, Jerome, for the opportunity. They say elections have consequences, and also the people get the government they deserve. And this takes me back to Ambassador Banks. She said, only you yourself can do it. So I'm saying this out to Liberians. We can effect the change that we need. And we have to be very careful as we go to the polls to elect our leaders. The majority, in fact, the people in the legislature were elected. People actually went to the polls and voted for these people to represent us in the House and in the Senate. We can take them out. We voted for the president. We can change him. So, and yes, we have, the opposition, we really need to hold together, solidify our unity, or else all this fragmentation can only work against us. The more we fragment the votes, the easier it becomes for the incumbent to win. And we might not have a runoff. So it's been an opportunity here tonight. I enjoy being here. The one thing I would take away from the ambassador's statement, we all agree here. He didn't really say anything that we already didn't know. However, I was really saddened by the fact that the people in the leeward side of the country who are not getting the support necessary are actually making excuses for not getting the support. Oh, the war in Ukraine and whatever it is, that is really sad. And
that's an abuse victim right there. Seriously.
It is.
Brainwashed.
If it is Stockholm syndrome or whatever it is,
that's what it is. Just in case of put in, I didn't want to say that.
And those are the people who will be going to the polls to vote. I mean, if their eyes are not open yet, then God help us. So I will acknowledge the opposition. We need to sharpen our message. I know a number of the opposition leaders, Mr. Cummings, Mr. Gonglo, they have already reacted to the ambassador's statement. That is good. But we need to sharpen the contradictions. It can't just be a one statement reaction and then, we're done and we move on. I was saying here when I got on that back in March of 2022, Mr. Cummings highlighted, how much money just the top five persons in government, the president, the vice president, the pro tem, the speaker, the deputy speaker, five of them, taking home almost $16 million, more than the major hospitals combined, more than the higher institutional learning combined. That cannot be right. So it is in our hands as we go to the polls. We have to decide whether we want to continue with this. If we feel this is where we want to be and we're better being here, then we might as well, re-elect all the people in the legislature as well as in the national. Thank you.
Thank you. Glenn, you are muted.
Good show. It's been good being here. It's a pleasure to have been the lone lady here, but I'm able to handle my own as always.
That's correct.
I want to say, what do I say? We're looking forward to hearing who VP Boakai is going to pick as his running mate. We're also looking to hear who Mr. Cummings will pick as his running mate come May 13th. Those two things for me, I don't want to end the show on my thought, but those two picks would inform my decision publicly on who I will go after every day until the election. So we're looking forward to that. I think Liberians are waiting to see, because it's gonna make a difference in the efforts. It's also gonna say a lot about VP Boakai and a lot about Mr. Cummings.
Join the team.
I am silently waiting to just go all out, because I will definitely be heard and not seen by we are. Thank you, Mr. Game.
You gotta have from where?
Was that video circulating today or real video?
Yes, it was real.
Which one?
There was a video circulating where President Weah was trying to say, it is being alleged that he was a little bit on the tipsy side, and he was trying to stand up, and two people went to assist him.
He almost fell on his face.
Yes, it's true.
Listen.
The room should tell us. I mean, he knows what's happening.
Listen. It was doctored. I know you guys did it. The opposition.
Who doctored that dingy looking?
Listen. That Joseph Boakai body, they just took.
And he only 56 years old.
They took Joey out face and put on Joe. I told you Joseph Boakai can't stand. Joseph Boakai cannot stand. I was telling you guys, and you say I will lie. I told you this man said we need a president that can stand up to the people. I told you Joseph Boakai can hardly stand. We said
I'm glad Alpha brought your own.
You gotta do like that to stand up. You gotta do like that. That's why you saw that.
Look at me. You see me?
Look at you. No, somebody pushing you. Somebody pushing you from the back.
Oh, okay.
The man sitting on high chair. The man sitting on high chair.
And he's 48 years old. He's a young man.
I said he's sitting low in the sofa.
Man, I can drop you now. I gave you 100 push-ups. But remember, I'm not 68. I'm 48. So don't believe that.
Let Joseph Boakai give me 100 push-ups.
The
You
people got me
see how
seeing.
I came in and changed the topic?
Yeah, he put it on Joe Budden.
Jerome, the people got me seeing. I can check people boom to find out the age. They didn't get sick.
How dare you see just when Kamara then came to the country, the not 20 year of the age, so the people were giving you baby aspirin. They think you were young, but it didn't help you.
Mr. Kevin, Dennis can attest to you that I'm not an old man, at least not yet.
No,
Because you gotta know me.
Nothing is a problem. When we had a club at Kennedy, when some of the children come, they bring the ID, they're not 18 years. I said, no, you get the guess it, Papi. Look how Cuba let me. I've been drinking this story all the time. That just to come to America, my age, that's 17.
But Mr. Kevin, I didn't come on resettlement. I came straight on green card. So I didn't have to lie about anything.
Listen, that's not what we are saying.
No, you lied to apply for the green card?
Yeah,
No, I came on immigrant visa. Immigrant visa. I did not have to lie.
You should have been, Mr. Kamara, you should have been retired 10 years ago. They still got you working, so you lose.
I know your problem. You're trying to make somebody, you're trying to equip someone to your age. You're looking for a partner. Mr. David, I know your problem. You're looking for a partner. You're looking for your equal. No, you go by everybody.
That topic.
Ladies and gentlemen,
the president publicly confirmed what the people can be saying. I whole day he flipped.
No, look at the other man. Bassa, thank you very much for taking your time. You doctored that tip. You can't make the president look bad, but we know it. All we gotta do is go to that thing. We got a tip. We'll put it in our machine. We can tell the real thing for the real thing. We know that it was fake. Fake as they can count. That president is a preacher man. He don't drink. He don't smoke. He don't smoke reefer. He don't do nothing. Georgia don't drink. Georgia don't smoke reefer. Georgia don't do none of that stuff. The man of God. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for Victor. Man, it was nice talking to you.
Hey, it was nice talking to you too, man. Regards to the family.
Hey, Victor, nice knowing of there's a fellow person out there supporting the ANC. I will check you out next time. Take care.
Hey, it's nice to meet you, man.
I'll talk to you later.
Glad talk to you soon, man.
All right, bye-bye.
Good night.
We all love Iran. Iran is our home. Love Iran people. Iran USA everyone. Love Iran. Iran USA everyone. Love Iran. Oh, love Iran.